I wanted to welcome both Tom and Rick, and maybe we'll start with just some quick introductions. Tell me a little bit about what you do and your role at TD Bank.
Thank you, Craig. I'm responsible for the Treasury Management Sales Organization at TD Bank, and as you know, I also take ownership in these seminars that we do throughout our geographic footprint that you've been a very critical part of. But my business card reads Treasury Management Sales Director.
Awesome, excellent. And Rick?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. My card reads Head of Corporate Products and Services, and that includes the treasury management activities at TD Bank in the U.S., our liquidity management on the non-retail side, so commercial, government, et cetera, and also have responsibility for emerging payment activities from a commercial perspective. So those sort of three things cover the footprint.
Awesome. I appreciate the well-roundedness of that coverage for Treasury needs and requirements. So this survey that we're doing is called Treasury Perspectives, and maybe both of you could weigh in on this. What's the part of the genesis of this is the conversations that take place. What your customers want to know from you, the types of conversations we have with our clients. They're looking for things. They're looking for information. What are you hearing? Maybe we'll start with you, Rick, and then Tom, you can bring that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we hear more often from customers than anything else is what is everybody else doing, right? So the customer is, they're in their own environment and they know what they know, but they don't know what's coming around the corner. And, you know, as providers of support to them, you know, we bring that perspective just like this survey will. And I think that's really the connection, is that people are desperate to find out what else is going on, what they should be thinking about, what they should be worried about, what they should not be worried about. And they look to us to provide that. And I think this survey is a great extension of that, and the ability to do it across a very broad spectrum of people.
When you walk through the exhibit floor here at this conference, you see a lot of name tags of people that have leadership roles in their organizations, whether they're corporate practitioners or people who work for banks or consulting companies, et cetera. And so they play leadership roles which are very broad-based roles at their organizations. And the information continuum is just exploding. It's hard to keep track of everything that you'd like to be able to keep track of. And as Rick pointed out, our customers, they just presume that, well, if you're a calling officer, you must be talking to a lot of people like me in different organizations. And so I have this expectation that you can bring that knowledge to me. What are they benchmarking? What are they doing with real-time payments? How do you see that fitting into my organization? Well, guess what? The relationship managers also have a challenge in keeping track of all of the things that their customers would like to know about. And this survey will help us in a programmed way enable our people to talk about industry perspectives, the impact on business strategy, for example, in the aftermath of a lot of these natural disasters that have been going on. What are everybody thinking about credit, the access to credit, the use of credit in a rising rate environment? You can spend a lot of money to get market research in many areas, or you can do this survey and get it for free. So.
That's great. I mean, and people make an investment. They're going to spend 20 minutes or so answering that. These are long surveys. People tell us you can't ask that many questions in a survey, to which I say that's a good challenge, because people will easily spend an hour hearing results or more. So those that are starting to say, if I can get more data, I'll give more information. So we are sharing more information.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, as you go through the survey, you know, you have limited tolerance when you're really not interested in the answer to the question that you're answering. But when you go through the survey and the questions are being asked, you're like, yeah, I would like to know what people think about that, or yeah, that is a concern for me, or you know, it makes you want to go to the next question. And before you know it, it's all done, and then you're going to get great feedback from that perspective.
That's great. So the survey is called Treasury Perspectives. So why are we calling it Treasury Perspectives, and what are some of the key areas that we're covering in this survey?
Well, the survey is broken into 4 major areas, and I'll just take out one of these trusty cards and read what they are. And I'm going to talk about why we have these cards. The one section is economic and geopolitical outlook, credit use and availability, treasury operations and benchmarks, regulatory impact and response. And I have this card here because we're promoting that people plan on taking the survey, and for every completed survey there will be a $20 donation to the American Red Cross to help in the relief efforts of these, specifically the hurricane areas, U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, Florida, and Houston.
So in your introduction, you mentioned how you do a lot with faster payments. I know you serve on some boards. What are, and Treasury operations, a key to that is digitalization or digitization, the conversion to faster and better payments. What are some of the things you're just generally expecting or seeing even ahead of the survey?
Yeah, so a generation ago, what we all do was so much different. The focus of it was sort of handling payments. And today, I mean, the one thing that I've seen over my entire career is that I can't think of a year or any period of time where, you know, corporate treasurers or the ATs that we spend time with said, I have more staff, it's always I have less staff, and I'm being asked to do a lot more strategic work. Before, I used to just have to pay the bills, I used to have to invest the excess liquidity that I had on a short-term basis or arrange for some short-term funding. It was very tactical in terms of what they did, and today it's so much more strategic. And those sort of actual transactions still have to get taken care of, but they are looking for partners, be they financial institutions or fintechs, to provide them ways to make that happen easier, to be a part of an outcome, so that their staff can be freed up to really focus on the more strategic activities to help lead their companies. And so that's, I think, where a lot of this is going. And so I think over the course of time, we'll see providers, be they, again, banks or fintechs, working hard to try and sort of free up capacity in those staffs by applying sort of robotics and artificial intelligence to clean up and automate repetitive tasks, and also to add sort of human level thinking for some capacity to help make decisions on sort of normal things. Should I accept this payment? Although it's short of what I billed, is it reasonable and appropriate? And that's something that technology today can help with in a great way. If you can take care of all of that stuff, then it leaves lots of time for folks to think about how they can maximize working capital, what they can do with that working capital, and how they can help to be expanders of their businesses.
Yeah, sometimes when I think about robotics, sometimes we try to make it more complex, like there's moving machines, but it can be automation with tolerances and decision trees and processes like that. So it's excellent. So we're going to see a lot of changes. I'm looking forward to this survey. But one question I have, and maybe Tom, you can take this, is why should people spend 20 minutes taking a survey when maybe they can just wait and see the results? Why not just sit back and just get the benefits?
Because I'm asking nicely for them to do that.
That works?
That, and we talked about the need for information to help drive the business forward, the need to be aware of all that's out there. And this survey will provide much of that, but only if you take the survey. If you don't take the survey, you're going to be able to get online and get some high-level summary information about it. But if you do take the survey, you'll be able to get the album version, if you will, a treasure trove of information that sits underneath all of these quadrants. Go ahead and laugh out loud, Craig.
I'm just thinking about the visual and verbal feast that I just enjoyed with that. I think a couple key reasons are, one, you're going to get a lot more detail, which is exactly what you said. And the second is, we're donating $20. For everyone who completes the full survey, we're sending $20. So make us spend money. Make us stick a crowbar in our wallet and send more money to U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Florida, and Houston through the Red Cross to help those that were impacted this way. So it's another incentive to make that survey have a bigger impact.
I think there's probably another reason as well. So first, obviously, sort of garbage in, garbage out. If you don't if you don't participate, right, the results that come out are not nearly what they had the potential to be. But I think it's also a bit of a little confessional, right? So, you know, if you're a practitioner and you've got some perspective about what you're doing and you're wondering about it, you can sort of confess that in private in the survey, and you can find out sort of what comes back to reinforce and so on and so forth. So sometimes it's a good opportunity to sort of think about what's going on. Going through the survey requires that you think about what's happening in your world. It's too easy to get wrapped up in the, I've got 20 things to do before I can leave here today, or whatever the next call or meeting is. And it's a chance to settle back for a minute and sort of think honestly through these questions and sort of where your company is and what you're expecting in the future.
And having, you know, additional perspective is a value to itself. But also, I expect that people here that come to this event, this AFP event, they're going to go back with a lot of ideas, right? Executing on those ideas can be somewhat difficult. And I think about, when we think about, for example, Treasury operations, the pendulum that swings back between a preference for single platform solutions versus bringing in best-in-class solutions, right? So maybe somebody goes back and says, hey, let's stop trying to make this ERP system do something that it wasn't designed to do. Cash flow forecasting, for example. There are lots of accessible solutions that can really solve that problem for us. Now, how do you go sell that idea internally? Well, we're going to be asking questions about adoption rates on things of that sort. Again, instead of going out and buying a lot of market research, you'll have it here by, again, if you take the survey, you get the detailed report outs.
Just encouraging everyone to take the survey. This is geared towards any kind of corporate practitioner, whether you could be in a nonprofit, a university, a Fortune 50, a very tiny firm. Also banks. Banks will take the survey as well. Obviously the information is bubbled up. Nobody's individual information is shared or moved out of the survey, but very useful to see perspectives coming from different size organizations, different industries, financial institutions, non-financial institutions, to see what people's perspectives are on the macroeconomic issue, treasury operations, access to capital, and regulations, the burden of regulations. So I want to thank both of you for taking the time to participate in this hot seat, sharing your thoughts, and if you have any final words to say, feel free to share with our audience.
So for me, just thanks for providing sort of the forum to have a little conversation about it. Thanks for what you do from a charity perspective around this. I think it's a great way to encourage participation and to do good. And heaven knows there's lots of opportunity and a need for people to do good. So thanks very much for doing that.
Well, and I'd like to state the obvious. TD Bank is the underwriter of this next premier strategic treasurer survey, and we're very proud of the relationship that we have. As I said at the beginning, Craig does a lot with TD in helping us provide education, advice, and solutions to our customers. Thanks, Craig.
Great, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.